What's going on, everybody? The Real Sharif M here, aka Mangana Steel, and have I got something a little different for you guys today. I know you may be tuning in to see some info on the Kaimano and its release. I promise you I will be posting a video on Wednesday with all of the details. But for today's video, I have a little EDC gadget that I think a lot of you haven't considered, and I think really may be something that a lot of you really want to get into. So, I don't know how many of you guys are gamers. Admittedly, I've never been a huge gamer my whole life, but I have enjoyed gaming ever since I was a kid. Be it the Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, N64, PlayStation, you name it, I could at least always find one game that I would become really obsessed with. And actually, my world changed when a game called Wipeout started coming out from the PlayStation 1 series. I don't know how many of you guys recognize this. If you do, kudos to you. But this is a ship from the game. I keep this on my desk, okay? That's how serious I am about that game. But if you guys didn't know, the world of retro gaming has been exploding over the last few years. And there have been a number of really crazy devices that are coming out with emulators. Now, if you guys don't know, what is an emulator? An emulator is a piece of software that acts like an old video game system. So you load up a copy of the old video game software and you run it through the emulator and you can play the games that you grew up with, which I think is so cool, so unbelievably cool. But now these Chinese manufacturers have been putting these into little handheld consoles. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about the one that I got. This guy, the Miyoo Mini Plus. Now, before I get going, this is going to seem like a promotional video for this. It's not. I am not affiliated with these guys. I have no financial benefit from these guys. None of this. It's just that I did my research and I found out about this guy and I have been absolutely loving it since the day that I got it. Okay? So, little bit of backstory. One of the dudes that I follow on YouTube is a guy by the name of RetroDoDo. RetroDoDo, I'll have his channel linked down in the description below, is basically like the GOAT when it comes to info, reviews, everything about retro gaming. And he has been kind of reviewing these devices for years now. And this is one of his highly recommended units. Now, just to know, kind of like the knife world, right? There's a new hot one that comes out every like 6 to 8 months. This is currently one of the GOATs. And I just decided to kind of plant my flag and pick one up, commit to one, and I do not regret it in the least. This thing is super duper awesome, okay? So what is this? This thing, the Miyoo Mini Plus, is a little retro gaming console that runs a form of Linux, and it basically has emulators for every sort of game system you can imagine between the beginning of video games and PlayStation 1. So you can see all of them right now. Just a few to kind of mention right here. They have Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Sega Genesis, Neo Geo Pocket, Super Nintendo, a couple that I don't recognize, and PlayStation 1. Okay, so you can play up to PlayStation 1 on here. This guy goes for around $80. I will have a link down in the description below. And what it comes with is it comes with the console, it comes with an SD card loaded with thousands of games. No joke, I'll show you a bit of that to prove it to you guys. Like for original Nintendo, if you look down here where my middle finger's tapping, 692 games, okay? Just for original Nintendo. Original Nintendo is not your deal. Okay, maybe you like Game Boy Advance. 910 games just for Game Boy Advance alone, okay? Maybe you really, really dig Sega Genesis. 635 games. 635. Maybe you're diehard Nintendo, and you are a Super Nintendo guy, and you really want to play, like, you know, all the Donkey Kong series or whatever, right? 1,498 games on here. And man, this thing is awesome. All of this comes preloaded onto an SD card. Now, you can also download ROMs, and I will provide a link for a website to download ROMs and a guide for how to do that. All of that will be down in the description below. And you can put some of your favorite games on here if they're not already included. And I did exactly that. The Wipeout series, which I mentioned in the very beginning, wasn't on here. So I made a point of downloading the ROMs for PlayStation 1, 2, or for Wipeout 1, 2, and 3, and put them on here so I could game. There's another old school game called Intelligence Cube that was on PlayStation 1. Downloaded, put that on here. Now, admittedly, there's a bit of a learning curve, but it's absolutely worth it once you figure it out, because, dudes, look at this. I mean, the screen is so crispy, so pretty, renders everything in just high detail, no stuttering, no like kind of frame rate drops, even in a high-speed game like Wipeout. And Wipeout is usually one of the highest frame rate games that ever comes out on any of the consoles up until recently, you know? And look at this intro, just stunning, absolutely stunning detail. So you can really, really get down and game on one of these systems if you really want. And what's also really cool is like you have full access to like the OG BIOSes from the systems. So you can set up memory cards, you can, you know, save your game progress, and even the software has the ability to kind of like do suspended game saves. So even if you don't have like a memory card system like that's provided by the emulator, the operating system offers that as well. So as you can see, like I'm geeking out over this thing, and I just think it's super cool because the reality is, like, in the real world, you can't sit in a waiting room doing this, you know, just sitting there fidgeting your knife. You really can't. It's not socially acceptable, right? So we go and we get these little fidget things like this little Loudy, you know, pocket aces that I have here, right? But after a while, this gets annoying, you know? Just like when I was younger back in the day, I used to sit and flip a Zippo, and it used to drive people nuts, like absolutely nuts. Right? It's just all that clicking, clacking. But with this you can sit in a waiting room, plug in your headphones, and sit down and game and just tune out and enjoy yourself. And I don't know, man. Like for me, that's kind of the beauty of some of the old games, is that you can just sit there, you can like get in, do a couple of races, and get out. And even with the suspend game mode, you have no worry about losing your game progress. I think it's genius, man. And this thing costs 80 bucks. 80 bucks. I'm going to provide you guys with a Amazon affiliate link, just a heads up, right, for this guy if you guys are interested. Now, you should also know that there are like more advanced systems. So if you want to play like PlayStation 1, N64, Dreamcast, PSP, PS Vita, right, those systems, there are consoles like this, right, maybe different form factor, different brand, that accommodate that, but you're going to start paying a lot more for that. So plan on budgeting like $200 to $250 for something like that. Regardless, I don't think that's a bad investment if you enjoy games. And eventually I will do that, because my dream is to have like every version of Wipeout that has ever existed on one single console. And the problem is, for me, the last ones that were available came out on PlayStation 3. So I'm waiting for a unit that can do that kind of performance, you know, at a reasonable price, of course. And then I'll get one of those, and that'll be like my little pocket does it all. But for the time being, this guy is absolutely phenomenal, and I have been having a ton of fun. When I flew back and forth to to Blade Show, right, I was playing this on the airplane. This is how I killed like several hours, was like, you know, I hopped in one of these, I played a little platformers, I played some of my racing games, you know, and just killed some time, and it was sweet. And the battery lasts for a long time. It's like, if I'm not mistaken, a 3000 milliamp battery. It charges by USB-C, which is dope, because if you got a battery bank, you know, you can just plug it into this, keep on gaming, you know, you don't have to sit and burn out your cell phone, which I think is really cool. You know, I don't know, guys, like, there is very little that I can say about this thing that isn't absolute applause, if I'm honest. I guess the only critique that I have potentially for this guy, I mean, the buttons are phenomenal, the layout is great, it's very comfortable in hand. I guess the only thing that I would wish, and it's, again, just because I come from the world of knives, pews, and tools, is I kind of wish they had a version that came in like a metal case. That little bit of extra heft and that little bit of extra kind of reinforcement would make me feel a little bit better, personally. But, dude, for 80 bucks, I have no complaints. No complaints whatsoever. And really, that's why I'm doing this video, because, like, I think that there are a lot of people out there who haven't thought about something like this, who may not even know something like this exists. And for the price of that new budget knife that you're thinking about picking up, you can pick up one of these. And I play this thing every few days as it is right now. And I've probably gotten more time and enjoyment out of this than I've gotten out of any like comparable budget knife, like comparably priced budget knife, you know? So, dude, and to give you guys an idea of the size, I mean, this is a Swiss Army compact, right? So you get an idea of the overall height, the overall thickness. It's just a little bit thicker than a compact to accommodate these little shoulder buttons. It can slide very easily into a pocket. I have this little case that Amazon recommended. It's like a hard drive case, you know. So when I'm on the go and I have a bag, I just take this guy, I kind of slide it in here behind this thing, you know, and zip it up. And this is no different than, let's say, carrying like an EDC pouch right there, you know. And you don't even need to do this, but I do. It does also come with a screen protector as part of the kit. You don't need to buy it separately, which I think is also like ingenious, you know? So USB-C, Game Boy style, you know, like button layout, orientation, nice, beautiful screen, beautiful rendering stuff, perfectly suited for Game Boy games and all of the retro games you can think of. Thousands of games on board, you know, easy to pick up kind of system to play. I don't see any negatives in my book. Genuinely any negatives, other than you may get immersed in playing all of your retro games, guys. So I don't know what to tell you. For me, like I said earlier, like I'm geeking over this thing. I think it's really dope, and I think it's one of the little better EDC investments, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Like, again, I get no financial benefit for geeking out over this. I hope you can tell this is genuine. I think it's that cool, and it's something you may not have considered, you may not have even known about, but I hope you will check out after this video.